And we're live.
We are live on both
There's
sides.
Bruce Rich fucking around with his phone.
There's Wilhelm.
There's Amalia.
Amalia.
Here's me. Okay, so we'll start with you. So what did you expect Citizen Kane to be?
I thought it would be far more like A Christmas Carol, as I previously mentioned. I thought it would be a story more of like a miser and this sort of thing, and it actually had far more depth than I expected.
Really?
Really?
You weren't expecting that much depth from Orson Welles and Citizen Kane?
I really wasn't.
Okay.
Not to the level that it went, and I was surprised at how modern it seemed.
Okay. What else? What's done? I mean, was there any shot that just made you say, wow?
There was a bunch, actually.
Yeah.
The whole newspaper reel beginning, that was incredible. That blew my mind because I didn't think that it would change, and then they cut that off and it was like a whole different movie from there. It was like the movie began when they ended the news story.
I was like,
that was very clever.
I always like that with the way when they end the news story, it ends with that,
Yes.
it's not a graceful ending.
No, it's perfect.
All right. What else? Anything else? Any other
Everything. The acting actually surprised me as well. It was genius, and I didn't expect as much as I got out of that.
Right. But the cynicalness, I guess, the dark humor surprised you. Was that it?
A lot of things, just the depth in general. Like every story, it had so many stories within a story.
Right.
It really was encompassing of his entire life, and I thought that was very interesting.
All right. I think that's enough torture. What? Okay, I guess I'm next. You hold it. All right. About the 30th time I've seen it. I missed the first 20 minutes, but I think I know what happened. The new things I saw was I didn't realize the globe was in Susan's bedroom when he first shows up. I didn't realize Susan was offering to get him in hot water. That's a little pun I never found. I never realized Paul Stewart, the butler, is walking around the picnic scene, and his scene is next. Anyone who wants to look it up, Pauline Kael wrote a whole damn book about it. Roger Ebert's commentary on the Blu-ray is amazing. It's also very nice to hear Roger Ebert's voice again. He talked about being the big special effects film. Most of that were matte paintings. It was stock footage cut together, forced perspective, like the statue of Mr. Thatcher was only 12 inches big, and then they pull away. The expressionism, people in the dark. That damn bird, that was what really set me off the first time I saw it when I was 14, because you can see the seam through his beak and his eye, which I'm sure...
I missed that part.
I'm sure that they messed up, that they looked at it and said, let's go with it, And there's a lot of things I think they messed up. They decided to go with it. And it's also you get a lot of things happening before they're relevant, like her name is in quotes in the paper the first time you see it. Paul Stewart is walking around as the head of the Butler staff before you realize he's going to be he's going to be one of the stories. So overall, very impressive. I'm watching it next week with Ruth, who couldn't be with us for this round. So over to Bruce.
Here, you can take both of them. So you were a good interviewer, so you can do that with me.
Okay, so what did you get new out of this?
What I got new out of this was the fact, which I didn't quite get before, I think because I was too young. Mr. Kane, his whole life was basically revolved around the fact that he was pulled away from his mother.
Right.
But he never had any responsibility towards anyone. He never had any accountability for anything that he did. And it seemed like later in his life is when he actually discovered that he could command people like puppets, and he seemed to enjoy it in a sort of twisted way.
Yeah.
I related to that with some recent experience. I mean, not by no means have I ever had that kind of money, but
right.
I've been in a desk where I had no accountability, or I had accountability, but none of us held each other to it. And I related to his character in that way, and it sort of, the look in his eye when he was clapping for his horrible wife, I felt that through the core of my being. I've been there, and that was profound, especially from a movie.
That's the thing. There are times where Wells is almost chewing the stage.
Yeah.
But it works. Like kind of like Al Pacino's chewing the stage in Scarface. But
Yeah.
it's so melodramatic, it seems to work.
It does work. And there's a level of realism to that sort of madness you see that hits him. It struck me. It disturbed me.
Yeah.
And then it made me laugh, too.
Well, I never realized myself how much Susan really is a pawn in the whole thing, you
She's
know.
a complete
And
pawn.
there's nothing evil
And
about her.
even at the point that she realizes it, she still goes along with it. It's
Right.
almost like she's a masochist.
Yeah.
And she wants to follow him down to the end of his trail, which is sort of like that codependent relationship that you don't see much of in early films like that.
So what blew you away, technically?
Technically, what blew me away, it was the same scene that I was mentioning when he stood up and clapped. There was a scene where they lit him as he was clapping and no one else was. I had thought that they had just decided to shine a light on him or something because everyone knew he was responsible. But no, I think it was more subtle and dreamlike.
There's a lot of dream things, like when she's talking and the background goes black, like in a stage production, so they can print the scene behind it and it'll show through.
Yeah.
You know, or some of the acting is very stylized, like Everett Sloan as Mr. Bernstein. It's very effective, but very stylized at the same time, very old school.
Yeah, it had a very French impressionist quality to it. I don't know if it was always intentional, but it seemed.
It's also, Orson Welles is kind of a potboiler. He's the only man with enough ego to rewrite Shakespeare. So he cut out like a third of Othello, or a third of Macbeth, and turned it into a potboiler. And there are moments like when he comes in with the announcement of the newspaper, it's almost too damn fast. You know, it's like there's so many points hit in about a minute and a half.
Yeah, and that was another thing that just, it's more of a cultural thing, just the fact that there was that stage scene when everyone was reading the same newspaper. And I know, that's not very realistic, but maybe once upon a time it was. And it just the difference,
like
the juxtaposition. Now everyone has a phone. They get their news from different places. They form their opinions based on who they're told to go read. And back then, they had very limited choices, and they had to come up with their own truths based on those limitations. And the fact that people in that era just seemed so much more eloquent and. At least in the film.
Yeah.
They seem so much more kind to each other, even the mortal enemies. They're at least gracious enough to walk away or offer a cab.
Yeah.
Now they're pulling out guns and chasing them down the street.
Right.
That's something that I found just futuristic. I hope
one day the world will get back to that.
Hopefully, if we don't destroy ourselves.
Okay, well now we're going to slide 5. So.
Yeah.
Is that basically it?
That's basically it.
All right.
So Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane is down. Pulp Fiction tomorrow night. I might be doing that by myself, but all right. Until next time.
Until next time.
All right.
It's not bad.